Listen, ladies, I need y'all to hear me on this. No contact is a good start, but it ain't the whole game plan. See, some of y'all think just cutting him off is going to make him realize what he lost, that he's going to sit there staring at his phone, wondering where you went. But let me tell you something. If that man already took you for granted, silence alone ain't going to shake him. A lot of people think that if they just go silent, if they just disappear from someone's life, that person will automatically start missing them, regretting what they did, and come running back. But that's not always how it works. No contact is a tool, not the whole strategy. See, men process loss differently than women. When a woman goes no contact, she often does it with the hope that the absence itself will make the man realize what he lost. But the truth is, men don't always react the way you expect. Some might even be relieved at first, thinking they've got their freedom. Others might assume you'll be back because they're used to you always being there. The problem is that silence alone doesn't always create the emotional shift you're looking for. If a man has already taken you for granted, if he's already comfortable knowing that you'll always be available, then simply cutting off communication won't necessarily change that. He might think you're just playing a game, testing him, or waiting for him to reach out. And if he believes that, he won't take your absence seriously. He won't feel that sense of urgency, that realization that he truly lost something valuable. What really makes a man feel the loss is when he sees that your silence is not just about avoiding him, it's about elevating yourself. When no contact is combined with real change, with growth, with a noticeable difference in the way you carry yourself, that's when it starts to hit him. A man might ignore silence, but he can't ignore transformation. He can brush off a missing text, but he can't brush off the fact that you've leveled up in a way that makes him question everything. Another reason no contact alone isn't enough is that men are driven by patterns. If he's used to you being the one who always reaches out first, who always forgives easily, who always gives him another chance, then deep down, he's not afraid of losing you. He may feel a little bit of discomfort at first, but if he believes the pattern will repeat itself, he won't feel the urgency to change. He'll just wait it out, thinking you will eventually come back. That's why silence by itself isn't the real game changer. It's what you do with that silence that matters. Also, let's talk about the emotional side of it. Sometimes women go no contact but still stay emotionally attached. They might not text him, but they're still checking his social media, still hoping he'll reach out, still reacting emotionally to everything he does. And let me tell you something, men can feel that. They might not say it, but they can sense when a woman is still holding on, even if she's not speaking to them. No contact only works when it comes from a place of true detachment, when you're genuinely shifting your focus away from him and onto yourself. If you're still emotionally invested, he doesn't really feel your absence because on an energetic level, you're still there. Real impact comes when no contact is combined with undeniable progress. When he looks up and realizes that you're not just silent, but you're thriving. When he sees that you're not just missing from his life, but you're living a life that no longer includes him. That's when the shift happens. A man doesn't truly start to feel your absence until he sees that he's not the center of your world anymore. That's when the regret kicks in. That's when he starts questioning his decisions. That's when he begins to wonder if he lost something he can't get back. When people talk about moving on, they often focus on external actions, blocking numbers, avoiding places where they might run into someone, or cutting off communication. But real change starts from within. Leveling up is not just about looking better, it's about becoming better in every way. It's about developing a mindset where your growth is the priority, not proving a point to someone who didn't see your worth in the first place. When you focus on yourself, on your confidence, your goals, your happiness, you naturally become someone who commands more respect and admiration. The first step in leveling up is self-awareness. Take a hard look at where you are and where you want to be. If a relationship broke you down, it's time to rebuild yourself stronger. If you lost confidence in yourself because of how someone treated you, it's time to regain it in a way that no one can take away again. Confidence isn't just about appearance. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. When you start carrying yourself with that kind of self-respect, people notice, and the ones who took you for granted feel it the most. Physical improvement is often the most visible part of leveling up. And while it's not everything, it does play a role. When you take care of yourself, when you prioritize your health, when you put effort into your appearance, you naturally feel better. And when you feel better, you project a different energy. It's not about looking good for someone else. It's about feeling good for yourself. When a person sees you glowing, looking happier, more put together, and more confident than ever, they can't ignore it. But the real power in leveling up comes from emotional and mental growth. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They might change their look, post pictures trying to seem happy, but inside they're still the same. Still hurting, still waiting for validation. True growth means healing in a way that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. It means setting goals for yourself, pursuing your passions, and creating a life so fulfilling that you don't have time to think about who isn't around anymore. Financial and career growth also play a major role in leveling up. There's a certain power that comes from being independent, from having control over your own life. When you focus on building something for yourself, whether it's advancing in your career, starting a business, or simply working toward financial stability, you develop a sense of self-sufficiency that makes you even more attractive, not just to others, but to yourself. When you know you don't need anyone to complete you, that's when you become truly unstoppable. The final piece of leveling up is your energy. People are drawn to positive, confident, fulfilled individuals. When you shift your focus from trying to make someone miss you to simply becoming the best version of yourself, everything changes. People who once overlooked you suddenly start paying attention, not because you forced it, but because they can feel the shift. That's the kind of change no one can ignore. One of the biggest mistakes people make after walking away from someone is staying too available even without realizing it. Staying unreachable doesn't just mean not texting or calling. It means removing yourself as an emotional option. When you cut communication but still check their social media, react to their posts, or talk about them with mutual friends, you're not really gone. They still feel your presence, and as long as they know you're watching, they don't truly feel the loss. Men are wired to notice absence when it feels real. If they think you're just being silent to get a reaction, they won't take it seriously. But when you disappear completely, when there's no way for them to gauge what you're thinking or doing, that's when curiosity starts creeping in. And curiosity leads to regret. The less they know, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the more they start to miss you. But for that to happen, you have to resist the urge to break the silence. Even in small ways. Staying unreachable also means avoiding indirect communication. A lot of people make the mistake of posting things online that are obviously meant to get a reaction, quotes about moving on, sad lyrics, or anything that hints at missing someone. But that only gives them reassurance that you're still thinking about them. True detachment means you don't give them a single clue about what's going on in your mind. You don't post for them, you don't send messages through mutual friends, and you don't leave doors open for them to come back easily. Another important part of this is self-control. The urge to reach out, to check if they've noticed your absence, to see if they're missing you. It's natural. But every time you give in to that urge, you take away the mystery. And mystery is powerful. When someone doesn't know what's going on with you, their mind starts filling in the gaps. They start imagining things, wondering if you moved on. questioning their own importance in your life. That's when they start to feel your absence in a real way. Being unreachable also applies to emotional availability. Sometimes, even without direct contact, people leave emotional doors open. They talk about the person too much, hold on to hope, or wait for a sign that they should reconnect. But when you're truly unreachable, you shift your focus entirely. You invest in yourself and your happiness in things that have nothing to do with them. You don't wait for closure or validation. You create a life where their presence or absence doesn't control your emotions. When you become unreachable, you force people to face what life is like without you. They no longer have access to your energy, your kindness, your presence. And that's when they start to realize what they lost. Not because you're playing a game, but because for the first time, they don't have the comfort of knowing you're still there. And that feeling, that's what makes the difference. Happiness is one of the most powerful things you can show after walking away from someone who didn't appreciate you. But not just any happiness, real happiness. The kind that radiates from within, the kind that isn't forced or put on for show. See, people can tell the difference between someone pretending to be happy and someone who has actually moved on and found peace. That's why being happy loudly doesn't mean just posting pictures or making it look like everything is great. It means actually doing the inner work to make sure that you are great. When someone expects you to be broken after they leave, the best response is to genuinely enjoy your life. Nothing unsettles a person more than realizing they were not as important to your happiness as they thought. When they expect you to be stuck, waiting for them, wondering what went wrong, and instead they see you thriving, laughing, and enjoying life, it forces them to rethink everything. It makes them question their impact on you, their importance in your world, and that's when the regret starts creeping in. True happiness comes from focusing on yourself, your growth, and your passions. It's about finding new things that excite you, reconnecting with the parts of yourself that you may have lost in that relationship, and surrounding yourself with people who uplift you. It's about rediscovering your confidence, not because you need to prove anything, but because you genuinely feel good about who you are becoming. A key part of this is making sure your happiness isn't tied to whether or not they notice it. Some people try to be happy just to get a reaction, to make the other person jealous or regretful, but that's not real happiness, that's performance. And deep down, if you're still doing things with them in mind, they still have power over you. The moment your joy becomes independent of them, that's when you truly win. Laughter, adventure, and new experiences are essential. When you start doing things that make you feel alive, traveling, trying new hobbies, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, you create an energy that people can't ignore. You walk differently, you talk differently, and you attract new opportunities. That energy is magnetic, and it naturally draws in people who appreciate it. More importantly, it makes those who took you for granted realize they no longer have access to you in the way they once did. Happiness isn't just about smiling and looking like everything is fine. It's about rebuilding your world in a way that excites you. It's about making sure that your life is so full that the absence of one person doesn't leave a void. When you reach that point, when your happiness is loud, confident, and unshakable, the people who underestimated you can't help but notice. They feel it not because you're trying to make them, but because they expected you to fall. And instead, you rose. When someone loses you, the real impact isn't felt immediately. At first, they might think they have all the time in the world to come back. They might assume you're just upset, that you'll eventually soften, that they still have a hold on you. But what truly makes them realize what they lost is when they see that you've changed in ways that make you unreachable. The version of you that they knew no longer exists, and that's what hits the hardest. People get comfortable with the idea that they can always return to what's familiar. They assume that if they left and decided to come back, they'd find you in the same place, waiting, still feeling the same way, still open to them. That's why so many people take others for granted. They don't believe they can truly lose them. But when they finally reach out and realize that the dynamic has shifted, that you're not responding the way you used to, that you're no longer emotionally available to them, that's when the regret starts to settle in. Growth is the most powerful way to show someone that they lost something valuable. When you become stronger, wiser, more confident, and more successful, it forces them to question everything. They start wondering if they misjudged you, if they made a mistake, if they underestimated your ability to move on without them. And the more they see you evolving, the more they feel like they no longer have a place in your life. It's not just about appearance, though that can play a role. It's about the way you carry yourself, the way you talk, the way you handle situations with grace and confidence. When they see that you're no longer reacting the way you used to, that the things they did that once affected you no longer have power over you, it changes the entire dynamic. They start feeling the absence in a way they didn't expect because you're no longer someone they can just come back to when it's convenient for them. Another way they realize what they lost is when they see how others start treating you. When you elevate yourself, you attract better opportunities, better people, and better experiences. When they see you being valued and appreciated by others in ways they failed to do, it forces them to recognize what they took for granted. They see that someone else is now experiencing the version of you they didn't cherish, and that realization can be painful. What truly makes a person feel the loss is not silence alone, but the undeniable proof that you've outgrown them, that you no longer need them, that their presence or absence no longer defines your happiness. The moment they see that they don't have access to you the way they once did, that's when they finally understand what they lost. And by the time they realize it, they often find that the door they once walked through so easily is now permanently closed. The most powerful way to make someone feel your absence is not through anger, silence, or revenge. It's through transformation. No contact might make them curious, but it's your personal growth that makes them regret losing you. People don't truly feel a loss until they realize they can't get back what they once had. When they see that you've changed in ways that make you out of reach, when they understand that you've evolved beyond who you were with them, that's when it finally hits them. Transformation is not just about looking better or acting different. It's about becoming a version of yourself that even you are proud of. It's about shifting your mindset from seeking validation to building your own self-worth. When you stop waiting for someone to recognize your value and instead focus on becoming valuable, everything changes. You begin to attract different energy, different opportunities, and different people. And that shift is undeniable. A lot of people think that moving on means pretending they're okay, putting on a front, or faking happiness for social media. But real transformation isn't something you put on for show. It's something you live. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle situations that once would have upset you. When you genuinely heal, when you genuinely grow, the energy around you shifts. You stop looking back, stop needing closure, stop hoping they'll return. Instead, you become so focused on your own journey that the past no longer has a hold on you. The moment they realize they can't access you in the same way, that the emotions you once had for them have faded, that you are now thriving without them, that's when they feel it. And it's not because you tried to make them jealous or played mind games. It's because you genuinely moved on. That's what people don't expect. They expect you to be stuck, to miss them, to hold on to hope. But when you truly elevate yourself to a level where their presence or absence no longer matters, it shakes them. Regret always comes when someone realizes they lost something they can't replace. And the truth is, they never lost you. They lost access to you. They lost the version of you who loved them, who was patient with them, who waited for them. That version of you no longer exists, and that is what makes them feel it the most. When you truly transform, when you truly become the best version of yourself, You don't need to force anyone to see your worth. It speaks for itself. And by the time they realize it, you'll already be too far ahead, too happy, too fulfilled to ever look back. That is the ultimate power. When you no longer need them to fill your absence, because your presence is now too great to ever be ignored.